Going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are going to get started. It is now 3:31. We're going to get started with our study session for the Timpanogos School District. We have in attendance Board Member Sorensen, Fugel, Wilson, Rex, and Lyman. We have Board Member Sterling Hilton is joining us virtually. Hi, Sterling. Welcome. We're still, I'm sure Board Member Smith will be here any moment. For our study session today, our first item is a vision and values statement refinement. So I'm going to turn the time over to Joe and Sterling to talk about that.
Okay, Sterling, we've got those handouts you wanted us to have for everyone. Do you want to jump into that, or do you want me to run that?
I was thinking that the first thing that we could do is just have the board review the current vision and value statements that reflects all of the changes that we discussed at our last study session, and just see if everything looks, as you read through the vision and value statements, is there anything there that hasn't or that wasn't captured from our discussion? I think that's our first, that's what I would like to do first.
Okay, everybody good with that? This is the cleaned up version.
I like that we, under the B or dispositions, that we've divided that into character and citizenship and defined that as inward qualities and outward characteristics. I like that.
I like that there's an even number of each.
An even number or equal?
Equal. And even.
You like the symmetry is what you like.
Yes, that's what she likes.
And I note that we've got in the vision statement at the top, the levels of genuine learning and belonging. That's the addition there.
Correct.
Correct.
Any concerns or anything there that you thought should be there that isn't, or anything that isn't there that you thought should be?
I like it. I think it looks good.
It's the way I thought it was going to be. So thank you for making it all nice and pretty for us. Was it Karen that made it pretty?
This was actually Sterling.
Oh. Sterling, way to go.
I like that we have the word accountability down in our values. That's important to me.
We added the safety there, the safety and well-being to educators and
yes.
students.
Yeah, I think that's great that we added that safety, since that was something that students often mentioned.
Well, I'm ready to say, I know this is a living document, but for me, if everyone agrees that this captures our conversation from our last study session, then I'm ready to in board meeting, if we need to pass it or do something official about it, to say, hey, this is what it is, take the draft off, and we will revise as we move forward.
David, you were the one that wanted us to take some extra time. How are you feeling?
No, I think this is what we talked about. This is kind of, again, cleaned up, makes it easier for me to know that we're all agreeing on the same thing. I don't care, but when we look at the the 4 Bs and the other 4 Bs, do we want those in alphabetical order, or is there an order that we'd rather have them in, or just the way they are? And then
Well, we
what
have
did
to go back and do the same with the do.
Yeah,
We wanted to be consistent.
Yeah.
Collaboration, communication.
creativity, critical
creativity.
thinking.
I can do my ABCs.
Unless self-mastery is the most important, but if it is, then maybe we should put a 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd say it's probably not.
Well, although self-mastery is kind of foundational to the other things that are happening.
As is empathy on the citizenship side, I would submit.
All right, we were all given an assignment last time.
That's right, about a motto.
Yeah, so anybody had any really good thoughts?
Can you remind me what your idea was, Sterling?
I think we all they're like, Sterling's got it. Okay.
Learn to thrive.
I think you originally said we learn to thrive.
Right. We learn to thrive.
Okay, Joe mentioned this, but I'm stealing it from him. I think we need to have together we learn to thrive.
You're channeling Joe?
No, I agree. He said that, and I said, of course, because in all of the things that we've talked about, in all of the introductions that I've made, in any of the meetings that I've gone to for boundary study, as we've been inviting people in, it's always, we preface it with that together we. And so I think that needs to be also in our motto, that we are truly looking at this as a together endeavor, not just a we.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of
That's
that.
5 words. It's only 5 words.
Did any of our other leadership team members come up with ideas?
Special friends. Any mottos that you have been kicking around your brain that you'd love to share? It's 1 word.
I think
also agree with David's idea to alphabetize. I never would have thought of that, so I'm thankful for his organizational skills.
I think we all liked the double meaning of we learn to thrive. We learn to thrive, and we learn how to thrive. Yeah.
Any other thoughts regarding motto? Any thoughts on the adding the together? I see a thumbs up. Sterling, you can't see that. David gave a thumbs up. Michelle gave
I
a thumbs
can.
up.
I'm on Google Meets. I can see you. You just can't see me.
Oh, okay.
I think it's great to add the together.
Yeah, even if we have to add a comma, I think we're okay with that.
I'll let someone else
Are we
decide
going to
whether
vote on the motto as well?
It'll,
Is it part of it?
If we can, I'm totally fine with that. I
Putting
just
it
don't
on
want
the
to do
document.
another
but
2
we don't
weeks.
have vision and value, we noticed that we were going to be doing vision and value statement, not our motto. So maybe we can at a later date come do motto, because it is a living document as we are going to approve this in our board meeting tonight. That it will be discussed and explained that this is a living document. It's not a closed thing that we're not going to revisit again. So we can add to it, I think, without any problems.
I think
But
so too.
I also don't consider the motto separate.
So you see it as like kind of the subheading as it is? Okay, maybe we can quickly add that then.
Yeah,
that out.
if we can add that and everyone's in agreement, then I'd say let's add it.
Comma or no comma?
Oh, I think it requires a comma. Does it not? If it
Comma.
doesn't, I'm thinking to not have.
I think Joe was the one that taught English.
Comma?
That's a lot of pressure. What do you gain by putting the comma?
Oh, I think it's just grammatical. If we don't need it, I'm fine without it.
Cindy was also an English teacher. Comma or no comma?
But we are an educational institution, so we should find out for sure. Google disagrees.
Oh,
Google says we can, is it,
Google says you do not need a comma after the short
Excellent.
phrase.
if it's just a short phrase? Do we trust
Then
Google?
then no.
We're not
then no-
educating by
I
Google.
don't trust Google.
I don't either, but we can start without a comma, and if we need to add one, we can add one.
It's a living document. If
That's
someone points
right.
it out and says, hey, you need a comma, you can add a comma.
Let it be known that I'll vote against it if we don't have a comma.
That, David, is your prerogative.
yeah. And I'm favoring not having the together. I like, we learn to thrive, but that's me.
Anybody else share that sentiment with Ada? I want to steamroll. Okay. All right.
We're good.
We have people working on it back there. Please continue your research and so we can have the right thing. Okay. Okay. We're done in 15 minutes. Great. Okay, we're going to do. Oh, Sterling, there's another thing.
I know. In my email, I said I think this other thing will derail what we're doing. So I think rather than derail, let's just postpone and we can address this in a month.
Okay, great.
Are
We
you
have a
okay with that?
proposal.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if this is appropriate, but I just spoke up. So we're feeling like maybe for the motto, we don't need the together because we're already saying together in the rest of the document. And mottos are typically very short, just a fragment of a sentence. And if we said the rest of that, if it feels like that would be a really strong motto, even without the together.
But when I say it, I might add it.
Just inform.
We learn to thrive.
Timpanogos School District, we learn to thrive. Comma after school district, right?
No semicolon. No.
I'd go with a dash.
The M dash? Oh,
Okay,
goodness.
say that again. Just say it. Just say it.
Timpanogos School District, we learn to thrive.
That's stronger.
Yeah, that's way strong.
Okay, I will give up my together.
Yes.
All right, great. Then we are now only 4 minutes behind schedule.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to turn the time over now to our legal counsel, Hiram Clark, for a presentation on grandma. I believe grandma.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get on it.
kind of real flat.
Tape over.
I had to do it twice for some reason.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Hey, do you have any Indiana Jones fans here?
Yes.
Sometimes when we're looking for records,
Is this an arc?
thank you, Darryl. All right. Well, sometimes when we're looking for records, it feels a little bit like we got sent to this warehouse at the end of Indiana Jones. I'm going to talk to you about grammar today. I spent a lot of time, probably 3 weeks ago, going through a really extensive grammar request for Alpine. I believe we had about 1,100 responsive records for that. And then Timpanogos is starting to receive grammar requests as well. So I think this will be a timely topic, and I appreciate you giving me a moment from your study session today. I think I can get us back on track, President, as far as time. We'll go quick. 6 things I want to touch on today. The first are some ground rules. The second is a very brief overview of what grammar is, why we have it. Third, I want to talk about what a record is. There can sometimes be some misconceptions about, and these misconceptions go both ways. So I have to turn everything over. Well, you don't quite have to turn everything over, but you might be surprised about some of the things that you do have that are records according to state statute. Then this bottom row here, items 4 through 6, we're going to talk about maybe some decisions that you make as you carry out your board functions. Whether you make a record or not is sometimes a choice. And so I want to talk about maybe when we want to make a record and times where it makes sense to just have a conversation instead. Okay, 3 ground rules for today. The first is that we're going to discuss general principles, but not specific examples. So we'll talk about John and Jane Doe. I have a very ridiculous hypothetical later on that considers a hot dog eating contest. But if you have specific questions for me, let's talk after the meeting. The second rule, please ask questions. I would hate to just come up, do my little presentation, walk away thinking, okay, we're done and dusted as far as grammar is concerned, and then realize, oh, Michelle had a question and I just never left time for that. And the third is please stop me at any point. You don't need to feel like you're going to interrupt me or throw me off or anything like that by asking questions. You're the priority here, and we want to make sure that we address concerns and questions that you have. All right, so this comes from a court case. You'll notice that it was KUTV that was the plaintiff here, and I would say that at least in Alpine, about 1/3 of our requests are from news organizations. Sometimes when you're a journalist, you're looking for a story, and you say, hey, tell me everything that you have about X, Y, or Z topic. A few years ago, that was student discipline. I think you may remember some of the news stories that ran about Alpine at that time. A few years before that, it was student seclusion. When you have students that have emotional outbursts and need safety interventions, how often are we secluding those students? But media often makes these requests. And the Supreme Court found that it's the policy of the state that public records be kept open for public inspection in order to prevent secrecy in public affairs. The presumption has always been in favor of public access, subject only to specific statutory restrictions, personal privacy rights, and countervailing public policy. I think opposed or opposite, something that pushes in the other direction. A great example of that, sometimes you would say, well, everything should be open, right? Everybody should have access to all the records. Well, what if the school district is considering purchasing a property and specific details about that purchase, if they became public knowledge, might actually jeopardize that district's ability to buy property at a fair rate, at a fair price? Well, that's a countervailing public policy. We have this general idea that we want to be transparent and open, but we also want the taxpayer to get their value for their tax dollar. And so maybe in the case of, there are so many exceptions in GRAMA for water rights, for example. Maybe if we're negotiating water rights or we're trying to purchase property, we're putting together a state test and some parent thinks they can get clever and ask for the answer key. There's some, you wouldn't believe the ingenuity of some of these requesters. And so there are these opposing public policy concerns and interests that sometimes put limits on transparency. Okay, what it is and why. It's a sunshine law, right? Everybody kind of knows that common phrase that sunshine is the best disinfectant. Typically, the presumption is that everything is a public record, except in very limited circumstances, right? You have 3 different classifications of records that are not public. You have records that are private. Those are kind of the personal bucket of records. Somebody has a medical condition. The public doesn't need to know that, they don't need to know why I see the doctor. Controlled, that's medical information. That's even more specific. Sometimes you have psychiatric diagnoses and things like that. Protected, now we're getting into our trade secrets and our strategic information. So if we were, water rights is an example, the test answer key is an example, those would be protected records. I think, so when I came to Alpine School District, I struggled with GRAMA a little bit because I thought, well, why doesn't the public just trust us? We really are operating with the best interests of the public at heart. I think the same will be true of Timpanogos School District. It's certainly been my experience thus far. But as we'll see later today, not every government entity operates the same way that Alpine has and that our district will. And there can be instances where a member of the public has legitimate concerns, whether those concerns are substantiated or not, that an individual is using their government position in a way that's unethical. We'll talk about an example later on that relates to Bridal Veil Falls. But really the general idea here is that if we're going to be a representative government, if we're going to give our constituents informed consent, and if we're really going to put our money where our mouth is about the transparency that we want to have, we need to take this we have nothing to hide approach that GRAMA sort of institutionalizes. Yes, Board Member Smith.
Address why they're not in alphabetical order. Disinfectant. I can't quite wrap my brain around that one. Help me understand.
Well, so that's, I probably short-circuited us here. I didn't want to put sunshine on the page twice, but it's this idea that sunshine is the best disinfectant. If we know that, anybody could see any emails that we send, it does make us carry out our business a little bit more ethically. Yes, Board Member Wilson.
Informed consent. I don't really know what you mean by that.
Yeah, well, man, I'm regretting these bullet points now. There's this concept in, political science about the justifications for government. One of those justifications is that we, in some ways, in some very general way, consent to our governance, right? And part of that is that our government represents us, and part of that is that we understand what our government is doing. So if everything that Timpanogos does is a black box, it's really hard to turn around and say, actually, we're upholding these American ideals and principles of representative government. You represent your constituents, but you
we're not informing them in a way that they can determine whether we're representing them correctly, and they can consent to the decisions that we make. I see what you're saying.
Precisely, yeah. Okay. I did skip ahead. We could, any other questions about these bullet points? All right. Let's talk about these bullet points. So what's a record? Actually, almost anything that is in writing is a record. There are very few exceptions. It's also true of recordings, but we tend to understand that when the camera is rolling or when somebody sets up a microphone and it's recording, that that's a record. But in many other cases, what we're writing becomes a record as well. Essentially, if it regardless of the physical form or characteristics, if it's prepared, owned, received, or retained by a governmental entity or employees and officers of that entity, I might add, and where that information can be reproduced, it's a record. Now, there are some exceptions, right? I see some of you are taking notes. I assume that those notes are not for the whole group. They're probably for your personal use. So that isn't a government record. You know, if you're taking personal notes, if you have daily calendar appointments, those aren't records. If you're sending emails, even from your own account, to family members about unrelated things. You know, I'm so happy to hear that John Doe came back from the mission today. Can you send me pictures from the airport? You know, that's not a governmental record, even if you sent it from your board account.
What is a temporary draft?
Yeah, so and this can sometimes be a little bit tricky because sometimes the temporary draft becomes the only record. But let's say you're brainstorming a statement here like this, your vision statement, and somebody gets all, you know, they catch a hair and they decide they want to know everything there is to know about the vision statement. Well, you're not actually on the hook to give them every draft we have since when we started working on it till the present. You can tell them, you know, we actually are just, we just have a temporary draft of the vision statement. It's not finalized yet, but we'll share it with you when it is. You know, we want to present it to the board, or we want to present it rather to the public as a board. So you don't get to see the draft yet. But you also can't hide behind this temporary draft thing forever. You can't say, oh, we're going to have a super secret meeting, and the minutes of that meeting will also be super secret, and we're always going to call the minutes temporary draft minutes. You know, at some point you have to have that final record that you're ready to share with the public.
So as soon as we approve the minutes, then they're no longer a draft and they're...
Yep, yes, exactly. Board Member Sorensen?
How wide does the prepared or received, use your mic. Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. How wide does the first bullet point go? Just, does that include your personal email, or is it your board email?
It can also include personal,
Okay.
yeah. And we'll get to that a little bit later. That's one of the really tricky things, I think, about the role that you occupy, for example, because it's very easy for me, for example, as an employee to turn on my Timpanogos School District employee account and to do my Timpanogos School District employee business. You represent constituents, and they may contact you through any number of means. They might come up to you at the grocery store. They might say, I know Michelle from 20 years ago, and I think I still have her email, and might email you at your personal email. So, I mean, it can be this multi-tentacled octopus that reaches into your personal life if you don't really work to set boundaries. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Before we do, I wanted to pass out some handouts here. Could I get a volunteer to read this scenario out loud? Thank you. Board Member Smith.
Timpanogos School District hosts a 4th of July hot dog eating contest. At first, everything is going well, but one contestant is angry when the judges end the contest in a tie. Joey Chestnut is certain that he beat Mika Sudo and storms out instead of accepting his medal, yelling, "You'll hear from me soon." Then, adding insult to injury, many of the contestants began reporting feelings of nausea and indigestion, food poisoning, or overeating. The next day, Joey Chestnut sends Timpanogos School District a grammar request for the following information. All emails sent about the hot dog eating contest. Any email drafts about the hot dog eating contest. Security footage and any recordings from the hot dog eating contest. An explanation for why Timpanogos served Bar S hot dogs instead of Oscar Mayer. Social media messages and posts made by board members about the hot dog eating contest. All records regarding hot dog cooking standards utilized by Timpanogos School District.
Thank you. So I want to, with this up on the board, I want to kind of work through one by one those items and whether those would be records that we might have to turn over. I think the first is pretty straightforward, right? All emails sent about the hot dog eating contest, we'd probably have to, we'd have to share those. Even if there are things in those emails that we said that we intended only for the recipient and not for the world. Email drafts are a great example of things we don't have to send, right? That falls under the temporary drafts category. And there's a pretty strong, there's a really strong argument that if you wrote something up but didn't send it yet, it's not meant for even the person that you sent it to, much less the general public. Security footage, that can be a little bit of a tricky one, especially in a school setting where there are a lot of young children running around with privacy interests. We will typically take the approach of redacting that footage. You know, you tell us what your child looks like. We'll allow you to see your child, but they'll be interacting with colored blurs, you know, because you don't have the right to see what every other child in the school is doing. With this hot dog eating contest, I'm assuming it's probably mostly adults. It's not in a school setting. Most likely we would turn that over. An explanation for why we served Bar S hot dogs. Now, I'd be interested to know that too, because I don't like Bar S. As you
I could tell you they're cheaper.
That's right. We're using the tax dollars well.
That would be a no, though, right?
Correct.
We don't have any official documents on that. Somebody made a decision. It wasn't written down unless it's in one of the emails.
Exactly. Often mixed into these record requests, you will get a request for essentially for a statement. You know, give us this record, tell us why you did this. We are under no obligation under GRAMA to create a record. And so typically we will say, we've given you all the records that are responsive, but we don't have a record that is an explanation for why we chose Bar S instead of fill in the blank. Social media messages and posts. So if you're making this as a board member in your official capacity, you know, hey, members of District 4, we're going to have a hot dog eating contest. We'd love to have some strong representation. Let's get our best eaters. That is going to be a record. Even if you make it on your personal Facebook account, that will be a record. Now, we may be able to say, you know, you can just find that on Facebook. That's usually how we address these things. But sometimes you have people who post only in a private group or who send messages through social media and it, you know, to a smaller group. Those things really, you know, you need to be thoughtful when you use social media or personal accounts or non-district accounts to conduct district business, because those things can end up becoming records. All records regarding hot dog cooking standards utilized by Timpanogos. This is a good example of a record that we probably don't have. I don't know how many food standards records we have, but maybe, I mean, I could imagine a situation where I tell Board Member Wilson, hey, I've got this surefire method of cooking hot dogs. I boil them in lukewarm water. And maybe Board Member Wilson says, I actually have some cooking standards for you. You know, maybe then we have a record. But if you write those standards down by hand, and I say, well, I appreciate this, and I know that I maybe should be cooking them up to temperature, but I like my lukewarm water better, and I crinkle that up and I throw it away. The fact that a record existed at one point, but that I destroyed it before this request came in doesn't mean that we have to go back and recreate those cooking standards. So there may be many instances where you, in your ordinary course, destroy a record. You know, a record existed at one point. There was no obligation to keep it. We threw it away, and then the record request comes in. Well, it's not anything nefarious, and we're not on the hook to go back and recreate a record that was destroyed properly and in the ordinary course. I mean, I don't love this, but here's the standard, right? This comes right from our Division of Archives and Record Services. Any social media accounts used for government business are subject to Utah's public record laws. If personal accounts are used for government business, then the content created is a public record. Okay, so sometimes we have a decision, right? Do we create a record or not? We often create records unintentionally. We can do that when we send a check-in email or text. Well, now that becomes a record. We can do that when we create a spreadsheet to track concerns. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of these constituent concerns, and we definitely make that a record. You know, we can't even use the personal notes argument anymore the minute we share that with other people. You know, so as the board president, you know, if you're creating I don't know if we do, but these spreadsheets that we create and track things with and then share with other board members can become records, even if they start out as just a personal little project to help you remember your own constituents' concerns. And then obviously social media posts we've already covered. So anytime you can see words, anytime you're you're looking at something and reading something, you should be asking yourself, am I trying to create a record here? Okay, number 5, right? We're getting to the end here, but you know, can they read your text messages? And the answer is yes. If it's about public business, those become public records. This example, I don't actually know whether County Commissioner Bill Lee was in the right or the wrong here. And I kind of wanted to keep it that way because this is a public example that we can talk about sort of clinically. But back in 2019, actually way before that, do you guys remember when up above Bridal Veil Falls there was a venue? I think there were school dances and it was kind of a cool thing. And you can still see, for a long time, you could still see the wires where the tram ran. Well, various people have tried to resurrect that over the years. And the last effort was in 2019, where a private developer tried to buy a portion of the land for Bridal Veil Falls so that they could rebuild that venue. I think they were going to turn it into a rehabilitation lodge. So if you're going through issues with drug addiction and stuff, you could, from that beautiful setting, recover from, you know, and receive treatment. The county commissioner kept claiming in public meetings the land is not for sale, and somebody grammaed his text messages from his personal phone. The state and the county weren't paying for it. It was his own phone. He said, well, these texts, they're not public records. The public isn't paying for my phone, and so I shouldn't have to turn them over. And the state records committee determined that those were actually public records. They said it would be inappropriate for a public official to attempt to circumvent the requirements of OTMA and GRAMA by using a private device while conducting the people's business. In the end, it actually was probably a good thing that those texts became public because it turned out that this commissioner and this developer had been texting back and forth about offers for that land and how much could be purchased and things like that. And I really, at the end of the day, I really don't know what was in the county commissioner's mind, if he was seriously entertaining these offers or if he was being kind of aggressively chased by the developer. But it was really important to the public that the truth of the matter about Bridal Veil Falls and that land come out. I think that's an example. Maybe, I don't think anybody in Timpanogos operates that way, and certainly to my knowledge, nobody in Alpine does. But I think that's a great example of an issue where this grandma sunshine, so to speak, ended up being some disinfectant for a really, certainly a visible issue for anybody who drives up that canyon. Okay, do we have any, before we move on from this, do we have any questions about text messages, emails, social? Yes.
Want to bring up again. Sorry. You know, the land acquisition is one of those closed session items that so yeah, that's a good example, but it also involves land acquisition, which is a tricky area. So
Yes.
I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah, I guess that would be a good question then,
Yeah.
is if we have entered closed session to talk about personnel and property acquisitions,
Mhm.
so ourselves, and we know we still keep minutes in those meetings.
Mhm.
When are those grammable and when are they not?
Well, usually what happens is that on the institutional level, there's a denial. Certainly for those records, for example, there would be a denial. And then we would go to the State Records Committee, and the State Records Committee would review those records. The legal term is in camera, right? I mean, there are some things that we can give over, like, but if there are details that are contained in those minutes that really would be that would constitute us, I guess they would fall into that category of countervailing public interest. What we would do is we would redact those, and then if the requester pushed back on us, it would go to the State Records Committee, and the State Records Committee would confidentially, in camera, review those records and determine whether we were right to redact those or not. The approach that we take is not an aggressive one. We're not trying to hide anything. So we would share as much as we could without giving away strategic leverage. And having reviewed the State Records Committee decisions, I feel pretty confident that they would uphold that approach. We're trying to play the same balancing act that Grandma is trying to strike, where we want to be as transparent with people as possible without, again, jeopardizing our strategic interests or the personal privacy needs and considerations of individuals. Is that a satisfactory answer?
So, I guess my question is, when would those be, that information, the recording possibly of, say we went into a closed session to discuss that. I was told that if it comes up in litigation, that possibly the parties involved in that litigation that would have been discussed could get access, but I don't know.
Yeah, and now we're kind of talking about the,
If it's
Grandma's
something
one
else
thing,
we can talk
Atma's
about
one
later.
thing, and then
Jen, we'll talk about that during OTMA
Okay.
training, and that's fine.
we can address that during OTMA certainly, but the short answer is that even in litigation, often a lot of the pre-trial maneuvering is about what information does come out versus what information doesn't get to be disclosed. And usually you're having, there's a battle of motions, and a judge will also review those records in camera, in privacy, and make a determination to say, these facts are material to the case, or actually they're privacy interests, and we can try the case without making all of this public.
Perfect.
Okay, some document hygiene. That's at least what I call it, right? Use a separate account for your board business if you can. With text messages, one thing to consider, you may want to consider moving your board member messages to an app like Signal that automatically deletes messages after a set time. Maybe every month on a rolling basis it deletes messages. That's totally within your prerogative as board members. And it sort of just provides this constant rolling reset so that if anybody wants things that you're talking about, they have what you've been texting about currently maybe, but not something that you were discussing years and years ago. Google Drive, go through your Google Drive and ask yourself, do I still need to keep a copy of this? Conversations, right? Sometimes a phone call or an in-person meeting is the best way to address a sensitive issue. And sometimes we have this issue where there will be a grammar request, so we're talking about records, and then somebody will text or email me about a record that they're concerned whether or not it applies. And now, whether or not grandma applies to that record, we have another record that says, hey, this embarrassing thing, do I need to disclose this embarrassing thing? And that could, we can totally avoid that if we just have a conversation instead of creating another record. Often, the fact of the matter is this embarrassing thing doesn't relate at all, but by creating another record about it, we've pulled it in. Devices and accounts. I see you're all using what look like Timpanogos devices. That's really great. And then this last thing is don't over-document. There's no requirement to write down every single thought or opinion that you might have. Sometimes you just want to vent. And you don't need to have somebody typing and saying, while I was venting, board member Jane Doe said this, and board member John Doe said that. And that becomes a record when it was really just meant to be the conversation. So, are there any questions before I give you the time back? Yes.
I guess I do want to say that, some of these seem to be kind of avoidance strategies. And I don't want to create the impression that we have things to hide.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be that kind of a board member. So I just want to say that. Yeah, I'm like, the text messages, we have a disciplined text message thread that we've learned to use properly. So anyway, I just want our public to know that we want to be as transparent. As a matter of fact, that's one of our values. So we do want to be as transparent as possible.
Yep. And I hear that loud and clear, and I think that that's been the way that Timpanogos has operated the whole way through. I mean, you even look at these study sessions and the public engagement that you've invited so far. I will say, using Signal is pretty typical. I have many friends from law school who interned in Washington, D.C. For various congressmen and congresswomen and senators. And Signal is what everybody in D.C. is communicating on. But that doesn't mean that that's how we have to do it in PG, Linden, Orem, Vineyard. So, any other?
Go ahead, Guy.
I'm just glad I was out of town on the 4th of July for the hot day eating contest.
Sterling, do you have any questions? Sterling? are you
I'm
there?
just wondering, whether or not do we all use our personal phones for board business. So is that acceptable? I mean, we're not in the business, or we don't have the practice of issuing a cell phone to us. We have our computers and such, but all of our texts are done with our personal phones. And I see us continuing to do that. Is that best practice? Is that acceptable?
Certainly. I mean, I would say that that's another advantage of using an app. You can very easily segregate, when you're texting between board members for board business versus when you're texting a board member to congratulate them on something personal. But I also will say that Alpine doesn't do that, right? Alpine just texts back and forth on their phones, and when we get grammar requests for text messages, we work with the board members to get what they have, and usually it's pretty easy for legal services to segregate the public items from the personal and redact the personal out before we send those. So what you decide to do is kind of your choice. I wouldn't say there's a bad way to go about it, and we're happy to accommodate you, whatever you choose.
Okay, that sounds great. Thanks.
Okay, anything else from the board? Questions? Thank you
Okay.
so much,
Thank
Hiram.
you.
We appreciate you. Okay, next up, we're going to do some, who's going to do this, Joe? Is that you? The strategic planning. So we're just doing some initial brainstorming. We recognize the fact that we are trying to make decisions based on a very long-term outlook. And so we thought it would be a good idea just to have some initial brainstorming about different, I guess, maybe ideas or directions that we want to go as a district that would be good to get on the radar now so that we can have the long view.
Yeah, and I would just add to that. So you've, over the last 8 months or 10 months, however long it's been, you've been thinking about a lot of different things. So we want to maybe start today by just capturing what are the things from a capital standpoint that we've got to do in the next 5 to 10 years, right? So we can just start a document and then kind of start thinking strategically about how do we start prioritizing those things. There's another element to that as well from an instructional standpoint. You know, what do we do to start really intentionally getting to our vision for each child? And we are having conversations with our folks, you know, our staff on that kind of thing. But maybe to start, it's a little easier just to say capital. What are the things that we want to not, because there's a lot of things coming at us, a lot of things on your mind, but what are the things that we want to make sure we're being intentional about over the next 5 to 10 years?
Go ahead, Ada.
Update our buildings. We have buildings that were built before I was born, and that's pretty old.
No, it's not.
So anyway, updating our buildings with in mind the technical, innovative things that need to be included in an updated building.
Would you say that that would be rebuilding or remodeling? In your mind. In your mind, what does that mean?
Rebuilding.
Specifically, I'd put onto that is Pleasant Grove High School and Lake Ridge Junior High Auditorium.
Parkside. I would add to this list going out for a bond, planning to do a bond.
To address the capital needs specifically,
Yes.
right?
In the next 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10. So you brought up Parkside as far as a rebuild, and that would be utilizing the Geneva property. I think when we did our potentially being able to have the site where we don't have to do the tricky rebuild on site, then we already have that vacant site.
You go first.
Are we looking for a list? Is that what we're doing right now?
This is just brainstorming,
Yeah.
like things that you, as we have
So
all
like a
run
draft.
for. Yeah, it's a draft. It's a temporary. But as we've been, I think we all, when we ran in our campaigns, we all had ideas. We thought, oh yeah, that would be a great idea. That doesn't this doesn't necessarily mean that this is what we're going to do. It just gives us a good starting point to go through and be able to say, hey, yeah, and start setting priorities and what's feasible, what's pie in the sky. So I guess don't hold back.
If we are taking ninth grade to the high school, we need 2 auditoriums, not auditorium, gyms. Gyms for Orem High School and Timpanogos High School.
And
Yeah.
Mountain View would say, me too.
They have 3.
I know they
They would still
They
say
have-
that.
they have small gyms.
Also, a 3rd wing on top of Orem High, if we're going to move the 9th grade up and want them in the building instead of in trailers.
And PG Junior needs to be rebuilt too, I think.
It might be good to just have an overall policy of when we feel
How old? Yeah.
how old or what measurements we have that would make it so that schools as they age need to be rebuilt. I know that one time before Sarah Park was rebuilt into Centennial, Alpine District, one of their leaders came and talked to us all and informed us as parents that the district tried to rebuild about every 50 years an elementary school. That was kind of the standard. I don't know that it is anymore, but to have something that we shoot for on capital planning, I think would be good.
So are you saying that not like we would do one now and then in 50 years we'd do another, but you're saying
No.
as a building hits 50 years.
As
So
the
you're
building
saying,
hits 50
so you're saying
years.
like the lifespan.
For
Right.
example, it was brought up to them that Cherry Hill had been rebuilt and ours hadn't been, and we had been built at the same time. And they said, well, Cherry Hill was built first and you're a couple years behind that. So that's why we wanted to be on the next bond.
I think Windsor would make that list too.
Sarah Park.
I'm not sure on that, just because we've opened up a configuration study. And we've talked about that turning into maybe a boundary study. And then at that point, we don't know what that might look like. So I'm not necessarily ready to put that on.
Yeah, well, I think to your point, everything we discuss here is going to be impacted by any decisions we make in that boundary study.
I
for
agree.
Sure.
I'm sorry, Michelle.
But I like Grace's idea to have kind of at least maybe an age at which there is some, we start putting it on a
I
watch
would add-
list. Go ahead, Sterling. And then Jason.
I would add Polaris and Summit. We've got to make a decision around what we're going to be doing there. I would add that our work at Silver Peaks and T-Tech, that is a temporary location. And so we need to think long-term about what our long-term solution is there. I would add virtual, what are we going to do for our virtual learning space? So those would be three things that have come up for me.
And transportation.
And transportation.
What I was going to add is what was said there, like not always right at 50, but start looking at that, because what's crazy now is Mountain View High School is not very many years away from 50 years and just had a major remodel and retrofit. So it could hopefully another 25 or so years, but maybe an elementary is different there.
Yeah, well, and I think it needs to be within reason. We can't just say that, oh, it reached this age. But I think especially buildings built more recently should have an extended, just like our lifespans have increased over time based on increased technology and building standards and stuff. I think maybe we need to have a starting time, but that's not a definitive time to look at a property, but it definitely needs to be considered.
I think that along those lines, we need to make sure we're hiring architects and construction companies that will do strong building and not cut corners.
Without having the latest and greatest innovation, so that we end up with a bunch of open classrooms that 2 or 3 years after we build them, we're like, what are we doing?
2 point. I think we saw that in our facilities tour a lot, that some of these things were built taking into consideration the newest and greatest trend. And we want to, maybe focus on let's be solid and traditional in our buildings.
I'd like to think about, since we are potentially creating elementaries with more space in them, the potential of putting preschool facilities back into our elementaries.
I think that goes to not just capital, but also programming. And so I was going to bring that up, that was something probably that you would want to touch on. And I think also our talk about virtual learning spans from capital also to program, if that's something that we want to have a good, strong presence in providing a virtual learning option.
I think in going to all the schools that we went to and visited, I think almost every school said they had not enough storage. So maybe we should make that a little bit more of a priority when we build. I think David disagrees.
You're going to always You could put all the storage in the world in there, and then they're going to want more storage, just like your house.
It says that, but you're a drama teacher and there's never enough storage for drama. But we have had some suggestions about a centralized
Yeah.
location.
Yeah.
And, and before we willy-nilly close every facility, that we consider uses that would benefit the entire district. And in that vein, I think we have the opportunity to have a community-centered type of resource that would be a resource to families. And this would have to be correlated closely with cities. I'm talking about parenting classes, support for adult ed. We have an adult ed facility right now, but that needs a future.
3 of our 4 cities have communities that care programs. We've got coalitions. So we've got PG Cares, Vineyard Cares, and Linden Cares that do that. They offer the parenting classes that are pretty top notch. So I think that would be a program continuing relationships with those entities and allowing them to use our spaces as they present these and using our resources to advertise them to our parents. I think that's an opportunity for us to make a difference, but utilizing their resources that they have as well.
Have we put district office on there, or a central office, or a central learning area?
Yeah.
We did put that on there already?
Well, it's coming up next. But
Well,
yes,
it should be on
that's
the list.
that's on our list.
I just wanted to add on, Jen, to your comment. That's very good. A lot of our cities are working on supports, especially for the preschool, early development. That solution might not look the same in every city, and I just think we need to be flexible and innovative in perhaps being supportive.
But also I think we can use our opportunity where we have relationships with all 4 to also be a bridge to be able to share with, hey, you should look at what PG is doing, or look at how Vineyard is handling this. That might be something that another city could benefit from. And we're in that opportunity, especially in the education space, to be able to uniquely point those out and see them.
Our support staff, are we forgetting something capital-wise?
I don't think it's been mentioned, but the board's talked about the Windsor site too, or is that on there?
A possible, that property is large and could facilitate a rebuild on there. That's one of those ones that's the age that we're going to definitely need to look at. But we'll be informed by our boundary study as well. So it's good to get these things on record, but also recognizing that things can change.
If we're ready to move on, like to planning, or operations.
Away from capital?
Yeah,
Yeah.
away from
Okay,
capital.
yeah. I mean, I think
One is a calendaring, planning. We need to start looking at.
like the committees and stuff that they
Right.
had. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a really good point, to be able to get organized those different types of committees to deal with our calendar going forward.
I regularly get people asking what we are going to do about start times. And I think that's something
Yeah, schedule
should-
committee.
discuss.
I agree with that.
So how is that handled at Alpine School District? Does anyone know?
It's handled by the bus garage.
Really?
A lot of it.
That is the tail that wags the dog for things. Okay.
But it's
In conjunction
also,
with anyone else, or is it pretty much up to them purview 100%?
it's also a very divisive issue. There are families that need an early start, or they don't have childcare. There are others that, you know, their child is dragging to school and physically not there for a little while, and they have real issues, and they're equally valid. So it's a hard thing to solve.
Speaking to your question, I know that Trailside, I should say I know, I believe that Trailside is a walking school. There's no buses that go there unless there's a special ed bus that shows up. They've asked to go to something like 8:45, something kind of halfway in between the 8 o'clock start, 9:30 start. And I've been told no, but it's not a busing. If everybody else is going to be on the 8 or 9:30, let's make sure everybody's on the 8 or 9:30 and not have everybody deciding on their own what they're going to. And then it's just difficult to kind of keep track of all that in a district of 30 schools. There is,
But given
I think there'd be a,
Hold on one second, Sterling. David's going to finish and then we'll clue you in.
in my mind, it'd be really wise of us to specifically look at start times for Oak Canyon and Canyon View and get them starting at the same time as the other junior highs so that high schools start at the same time, junior highs start at the same time, and then let's see what we do with elementaries.
That would facilitate school to school, those kids that are going to different programs, right? But I think all our high schools are on the same, and it's just Oak Canyon and Canyon View that are the only two. And that is busing, right? That's a busing thing.
But Oak Canyon and at least Canyon View likes their schedule because it aligns more with the high school, so therefore they can work with the high school better, whereas Lake Ridge has a harder time.
As a sports parent, I can agree that with Oak Canyon, it was so much easier to get my kids to A4 to do their sports because we were, they weren't.
It's, kids miss out on a lot when it doesn't
But
align.
if, as far as our configuration, if our configuration has an opportunity to solve that problem, so. Sterling, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the issue, this recent conversation just illustrates that scheduling and start times needs to be part of our strategic plan. It's not to solve or determine what it is. It's just that we need to consider this issue moving forward. And anyway, we don't need to solve it. We just need to
Put it on the radar
exactly
to
right.
discuss. Yes.
Well, and let Rex and the transportation people see if there's any flexibility in what we've done with 81 schools versus what we need to do with 31 or 85, I guess, schools instead of 31. It might be more flexible because of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up with more bus routes, depending on the outcome of our boundary study. So that's an issue.
Yeah, and I think that transportation, not only a location for a possible bus garage in the future, but also purchase of buses, because we have more buses than we have more routes than we will have buses for. So that is something we will need to continue, and we're continuing in our negotiations with Aspen Peaks and Lake Mountain. We have follow-up meetings. So I think when we get more into the nitty-gritty of this and we know a little more, we'll be able to talk to those issues with them.
Are buses capital expense?
Yes, they are. So I added transportation and buses. I don't take very good notes. Is someone taking better notes than me? I guess we'll have it. I guess we have Karen. Okay. Okay.
Does that mean we're making a record?
No, I'm taking my personal notes. Karen is making the record. Anything from staff that you see? Anyone? Darren? Technology?
What's that?
Technology? Do you have something to say about technology?
Well, I would just reiterate what David was explaining about the buses. And even though it seems like an operational scheduling issue, it really comes down to the number of buses we have. The reason why there are so many schedules is that we only have so many buses. So if we want to spend more on buses, then we could make more flexible schedules.
But keep the microphone, because I think we need to know. I think it's something. It's one of those things. Technology is one of those things. Darren, no, I said you need to keep the microphone. I'm asking you. I think technology is one of those things that is behind the scenes. We all want it, and we just get mad when it doesn't work. Can you see any improvements or things that we can do technology-wise that are going to down the road? I mean, this is a 5-10 year thought process that would be something we would want to put on our radar now.
Yeah, so we just went through a several year project called Learning Powered Classroom to put projectors and updated sound systems in all of our classrooms. We will need to refresh those within the next few years, or at least start a plan to where we start refreshing all of those. In addition, the cost of Chromebooks for every secondary student is expensive. That's one thing we need to consider.
What's the lifespan of one of those? Like, how often are we refreshing those?
Chromebooks are about every 4 years. Projectors are about every 10. Sound systems are a little bit longer, but the technology improves so rapidly that sometimes we want to consider going a little faster with that at this point.
Are there any software programs or anything that you think that we should maybe consider going forward that would be good to get on our radar?
Skyward, Cumulative. We're going through the process right now of updating to Cumulative. That's been a lot of work, and it's good. We're in good shape. We have a lot of work to do still, but it's going well, and that will be a system I think we'll want to continue through the next years, several years. Link, Jason and I are on teams where we're moving to Link ERP, which is our finance system. We may want to consider something in the next few years, something else other than Link. There are other systems.
And that would be why? Why would we want to consider something different?
More features, better integration with other tools. Skyward, for example, they have a finance system. Maybe we would want, if we want to keep Skyward as our student information system, maybe we would want to also consider using Skyward as our finance system. There are a few districts in the state that do that. Others. There are other tools like Panorama. That's a system that can teach it's an early warning system that can help our teachers know which students need the most critical help, and it is also a nice system to teach them how to provide that help. I think that's a system we'll probably want to implement fairly early in our timeline. There's a need for that, and there are many others. In fact, we should probably dedicate maybe just a few minutes and then in the next couple of months about technology and upcoming systems.
Great.
Can you explain to me, like, Cumulative, Link, Panorama, and maybe curriculum programs are separate? What budget category do those fall into?
So our core systems, that falls into capital. I know it's odd because you think we use software regularly, but traditionally we've purchased a lot of the software systems and core systems out of capital because it's well, I don't know. Maybe Jason would know better why. But we do have some operational budgets that we dedicate towards software.
I think because it's an allowable expense in there, so we take advantage of that.
Okay, great. Well, we have more things on our agenda, so we're going to put a pin in this. This doesn't mean we're done. This is initial brainstorming, so we will continue on this. So as you come up with things, as you're talking to constituents, or you just wake up in the middle of the night with a thought, jot it down so we can continue on this process as we refine this. Okay, we're now going to turn the time over to all of us, I guess, but I'll have Joe start with this on our boundary study update.
Yeah, we wanted to take a little bit of time. 3 of you sit on the high school or the secondary committee, 3 of you sit on the elementary committee, so we wanted to give you a little bit of time to just fill each other in on your perspective on how things are going. But I also wanted to just give you a few things. Just as far as the boundary study update, you've got in your documents the robust school criteria. That was phase 1, and we'll say we're done with phase 1. As you look at that, I just wanted to point out again that the side that says elements that are not related to size is such a crucial part of that, and that is really our core work of teaching and learning. It's quality teaching, it's effective leadership, it's great school culture. Those things have to be in place no matter how big a school is. Otherwise, the school's not going to be robust. But on the flip side of that are the elements that we went through in phase 1 in those cluster meetings with community members, in focus groups with principals, and all the different things. Those are what we ended up saying. These are the things that are related to size, and down in the bottom right corner of that are the sizes based on configuration where it gives us the best chance to be robust, assuming that everything on the other side of that paper are in place. So we are well into phase 2. So I do want to just emphasize we're well into phase 2. You've all been in boundary meetings, boundary committee meetings. You've all been in focus groups. We had a focus group this week about DLI. We are getting principal feedback and involvement at all of these stages because they're going to be a really crucial part of our communication and PR, and really logistically on the back end, any decisions we make, principals are going to be a key to really making any of those changes work well. And so we were just doing a lot of those types of things well into phase 2, kind of phase 3. Just by way of reminder, and we wanted maybe on public record to just point out a couple of things that we pointed out in the focus groups and remind. One of the fascinating things is if you look at that blue line, that's the elementary enrollment over the last 45 years, and it's 46 years. And it's fascinating to see that the actual enrollment last year in our elementary schools for our geographic area, it's the same last year as it was in the year 1980, even though there were probably 3 times as many addresses. And so we are in kind of this interesting declining enrollment. And as we talked about in the focus groups, those are probably because of lower birth rates, also affordability for young families, as well as we're losing some kids to other schools, right? Other options. And so we want to be able to address all those things, but just to kind of give an overview of that. If you look at those robust school sizes, just really quickly, this graph looks super messy. Each one of those lines is an enrollment of a particular elementary school. And so all I wanted to point out there, because I think this tells a really significant story. If you look in 1980, almost every one of our schools, the dotted lines are the robust school size. And so that swath where the dotted lines are, if you look in 1980, almost every one of our schools were within that. And now you can see projected by the year 2030, almost every single elementary school, if we do nothing, almost every elementary school actually falls below that, except for Trailside, which is well above it. But there would only be 4 elementary schools left within that robust school size. So I point that out just because I think that those 2 graphs really tell a story of kind of where we are and why we're doing a boundary study to begin with, right? As you well know, we divided it into 2 major efforts, and in the last board meeting 2 weeks ago, the board voted unanimously, and you remember we went through all 29 for the configurations, right? So that we decided to divide it into these two things so it doesn't get conflated or confused by the public. That there's really two separate things. We're looking at configurations, moving 9th grade to high school and possibly 6th grade to middle school. That's the configurations that's already voted on. We're officially in that 90-day window now where we can keep looking at it, and then that allows us in late October to make a decision on, are we going to go that direction? Those have been the public notice part of that has been put out, both the card and the emails. But coming up, timeline-wise, in 4 weeks, we hope to make a decision on what schools would be considered to be affected in consolidation. And so that is something that we're working on. We'll continue to work in the boundary study committees. Jason, what?
Yeah, and on that the decision would be which ones to study officially
Yes.
in the 90-day period.
Exactly.
Yeah, no decision on anything until that 90 days is over, but
Right.
which ones will be officially studied.
And that puts us into phase 3, right? And so then we start looking at specific options. And timeline-wise, we've done all kinds of things that go way above and beyond the legal requirements because we are involving our community and all of that kind of thing in the input. Because together we, right? Like it really is that, and I felt that heavily from our board members.
Jason, how much was the postcard? I know we talked about it but I'm just curious.
I believe that was 40 cents per card, and I can't remember but I think it cost about $4,000.
$4,000, okay.
Can I ask, as we get to the consolidations ideas, do we have to notice schools that their boundary might change even if they're not being considered for consolidation?
It's a great question. Yes. So we will notify everyone who is likely to have any boundary change, which will probably be everyone again because of the if we go with reconfigurations, chances are good that almost everyone will be affected. So, but we do need to do both the boundary, any boundary changes as well as any possible consolidations.
And
Jason?
the consolidation or closing of programs takes it's required at least 90 days the study be open. For boundaries, it's only 30, but we're still going to do any boundary ones in the same 90 days. So going above what's required there rather than just 30 days for that.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
But
Michelle.
we're not really, we would grandfather programs, right? We've talked about that. We would continue a program through us. If a child's in a program, our intent is not to rip the rug out from under them.
Right, but some of the possible schools that may close and get consolidated in another school might have a program, and that then figuring out if it goes with that one. Correct.
Okay,
But
thank you.
Okay, and I did want to just share briefly, this comes from the Parsec survey that went out to every household in our district, well, not every household, but every email that we have. And it closed on Monday. So on this first question, how would you describe your level of endorsement for moving 9th grade to high school? There were 4,124 submissions, and you can see that it was about 65% supporting plus 11% neutral, so almost 75%, about 3/4 saying we're either supportive or neutral, which reflected pretty accurately what we felt in the cluster meetings with parents as well as focus groups with parents. And then the second question was, what's your level of support? If 9th grade moves to high school, what would your level of support be to move 6th grade to, oh shoot. I don't know what just happened. There it is. 6th grade moving to middle school or junior high. And still a fairly high level of support, but a little bit lower than the 9th grade moving, which we also felt in the cluster meetings and focus groups. So that reflected that fairly well. For time's sake, I'm not going to go into some of the key takeaways from that survey, but some very good points for us to consider that our patrons are saying, okay, if we move ninth grade, there's some really important logistical considerations and that kind of thing. But with that, I did want to have you have some time to inform each other since you're not on both committees. So maybe we could start with the elementary. What have you experienced? We did have the DLI focus group this week, as well as, you know, some other focus groups and boundary committee meetings, just to inform the board. And then we'll go second.
Michelle and then Ada.
I think the DLI focus group, the big question that we came out with is we need to determine why we want DLI in our district, and that will help us make the decisions as to how and what model we use to keep DLI.
Yeah, and in the discussion, I think there was a consensus that, you know, English is our target language overall as a school district, and that, you know, language acquisition is on top of that. But we do need to determine what our purpose is, and according to that, that will inform our choices. We had parents who are involved in DLI and those who are not involved in DLI. So it was really very interesting to hear both perspectives and for them to hear each other in those perspectives. Yeah, there's different reasons that people engage in DLI. And so we need to grapple with that and approach, you know, to me, there's an overarching purpose, which would be being part of a global society and having our children with an expectation, at least learning that a lot of children in this world have more than one language. And we don't want to cut off that opportunity from them. So anyway, that was one discussion. In our ALL discussions, I think there was a lot of support for the idea of having ALL opportunities in all schools so that it wasn't just an exclusive opportunity for those who could provide the transportation to a magnet school. However, there is still a concern that we do have a magnet school that provides a true ALL gifted and talented program, which targets students who have needs that cannot be met in an ordinary classroom.
I would say one of the things that came across really strongly to me in the DLI meeting was the fact that a lot of people are looking to DLI to add that challenge. So that begs the question to me of if we're giving opportunities for a challenge with having a ALL or a gifted and talented opportunity in each school, is that going to be as much of a need or of parents? That thought, and then but then hearing from the administrators talking about DLI was different as far as that language acquisition and utilizing it as a vehicle to provide education, and then the other thing that I want the board to know is that these parents that we met with recognize how difficult a position we're in and that we're going to have to make some hard decisions. They just wished us the best in this process. I may have asked for a prayer or two to be sent our way. So, but yeah, I think our community feels very much listened to and involved in this process. So I'm grateful we're doing it this way.
I think I also want to point out that I think there was consensus also in the rooms that I was in that a robust school is where a DLI program thrives, not in a struggling school. That robust school is essential to the success of a DLI program.
And by robust, that means number of enrollment. Yes, number of classes to support both the gen ed and the DLI.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
In your discussion with the DLI parents, did it come out what model of DLI program they would prefer?
No. I mean, I think where a lot of different models were mentioned, and there was not a consensus. We did talk about a single magnet school that would be solely DLI. That was thrown out as an option. What Joe did is he had a slide up there and it said magic wand. Okay, you have a magic wand. Wave your magic wand and fix this. What would you do? What would that look like? One table brought up the fact that we double our taxes, and then we have the money to do with what we can do whatever we want because we would have the money. But some of them did mention this magnet, and then another school actually mentioned. I mean, another table. So we're kind of in tables. Mentioned having a DLI program in each cluster. So you'd have one elementary school in each cluster that would feed a junior high, would feed a high school, so that the cluster would be to make sure that there's access maybe in all 4 areas. But there was never, we talked about different, there wasn't anything that was, there was discussion about MLs being supported, through DLI in some respects, but I don't think that got a ton of traction, that it is a benefit for an ML to be able, they have the ability to go into a DLI program mid-grade. Like they don't have to, if they're a native Spanish speaker, they could start a DLI program in 3rd grade. So that helps with kind of the numbers with attrition. But it was never talked about as this is the magic bullet to help with MLs. So
We also talked about the idea of having, like ALL, having DLI in every school. And we had at least one principal who said that would be very difficult to hire quality teachers at every, like they have a hard time now hiring very good teachers. And that would be very difficult to achieve. But it's still out there on the table, I think.
Okay, I would just give a shout out to all the parents who have come. Like, we've had great participation. I'd also give a huge shout out to all the people, the principals and other people who have been on our boundary committees. We'll continue that work. Let's have secondary maybe talk just briefly about anything. There's not as much movement there because we voted 2 weeks ago to study the configurations formally, but anything you'd add, secondary board committee members?
If I remember right, we made comments last board meeting about how the progress was, and I don't think anything's changed from my perspective since then.
Can I just ask if we have done an analysis of our buildings, if they are capable of absorbing 9th grade high schools?
We have not done an official analysis because we haven't looked at official actual numbers and boundaries to where. So we've been playing with lots of different scenarios and brainstorming different things. One, sometimes, to see if can we make it so there's pure feeders or other different things. And that changes those numbers every scenario. And so I don't think we know that yet, but there will be some logistical challenges, absolutely, that we'll have to address.
And the 3 things that we do know is that Orem High would need more space, and that the 2 high schools, Timpanogos and Orem High, would need a 3rd gym.
But in time, not necessarily right at the beginning.
Orem would need something quickly.
Orem would need at least some trailers. They do not have enough classroom space, according to what I've understood.
And it would be a stretch for Timpanogos, I think. I think the 2 that are best suited to absorb those numbers would be Pleasant Grove and Mountain View.
Yeah, I was just going to say, on all the scenarios too, we will look at the size of the building. So Orem High, if there's any boundary changes, or even how they are now adding 9th graders, they're going to be smaller than the other 3 in that. So yeah, we'd have to look at a lot of times they'll say, yeah, we're at this point, we can't add any more, but getting creative on some of the space of what's there.
Okay. Sterling, anything to add?
No, I agree with David. I don't think we've had much different movement on the secondary side.
I have, however, enjoyed looking at the responses on Facebook and other places to see reasoning behind ideas of whether or not ninth grade going to high school is a good idea or sixth grade. And it was really good for me to see what you just posted. If there were any more comments, I'd love to read them. Great.
And we did mention this as we were looking at the Parsec survey. It was interesting to see that there were 4,100 responses about ninth grade going into high school, and there were only 2,900. And so I guess with the Parsec survey, you don't have to complete the survey. You can just answer the questions you wanted to ask. So that was kind of interesting.
So does that mean that people just don't feel
Oh,
as
no.
strongly about sixth grade?
I guess, yeah.
Is that kind of
It-
like
well,
what
and
we
it
saw
is
at the
a
very
little bit
beginning?
more
Nobody wants sixth
split.
grade, or it doesn't matter.
Well, and what's interesting, I mean, just in our initial discussions, I think way back, we had a lot of junior high principals that were like, oh. But as we look at things and as people understand that removing the credit requirements for our middle schools opens up a whole range of possibilities for our middle schools to meet the needs of our students. I think that's kind of changed things. So I look at the numbers and I think, I don't know that we've presented enough information. So I look forward actually to our public meetings, our public hearings, and any open houses we do that will allow us to share that information.
I also think that we could provide information to address the concerns of moving sixth grade up is we need to take care of those children and the models that are available if we move ninth grade up to give them a cushion and a safe space in a junior high or middle school model. So yeah, I think we do need to present a lot of information and possibilities to our public about how we can care for these moving up grades because it is new and it is could be anxiety causing for parents and students both.
I think also in that same vein, we need to address our teachers.
Oh, yes.
Our sixth grade teachers, as far as their concerns is like, oh, what does this mean for me? I think also for our ninth grade teachers, I think that that's something that we can do as staff can do as we're moving forward. So we will address that. Okay, we gave ourselves like 20 minutes of cushion and we've absorbed all of it. So we're going to turn the time over now to Jason to talk about our Timpanogos Education Center. Is that right? Okay. This is exciting.
Okay. So on this, there's a couple of agenda items later in board meeting. One for the selection of a location for an education center, Timpanogos Education Center, and then also for possible purchase of property. So this is the timeline of school board discussion on this, trying to find a spot to house the people that we are now hiring. A lot of them coming from Alpine School District, which they have spots now, but being able to have spaces for people working at a district level, whether that be in the teaching and learning, teachers on special assignment, nutrition services, and district administration, a whole list of things which we'll go over. But the board back in January received in study session a presentation by Frank Poley on just different options for district office options. Again, another one in March 25th. So it's been studied by the board in open meetings both those times, and then also lots that staff has been working on and showing to board leadership. In May, there was a resolution that the board approved authorizing the solicitation of bids, design, engineering, and construction of a new district office facility. And so that went out for what's called an RFSQ, for a statement of qualification from architect firms. I believe there was about 7 to 10 that submitted for that, really great firms. One was selected, and is kind of the last 2 weeks, we have weekly meetings, just kind of preliminary design options. So that happened in May, and that's kind of rolling there. There was also a request put out for construction companies to submit their qualifications, their proposals. That has not been completed yet, but that's closed but has not been fully reviewed yet. And then again, for tonight's meeting, there's those 2 action or discussion and action items that are on the agenda. Well, we're having the study session one, and then in board meeting, the location selection. Some call it district office. We're using the term Timpanogos Education Center, and then also authorization of a small lot of purchase of real property, and we'll go through that a little bit. Any questions on this so far?
Are you planning on calling it the Timpanogos Education Center, or will it be called the Timpanogos District Office?
I think we can get direction from the board, and I mean, there can be
Yeah.
recommendations from staff.
And we're open to ideas. I think the main thing that we would emphasize there is it's much more than just a place to house administrators. In a district office, you have more people who are not administrators than are administrators, right? In curriculum, in nutrition, in technology, and it's a place for professional learning, right? So we want it to, whatever we call it, we want it to represent what it really is. And I sometimes think district office makes it sound like it's just an administrative spot, but.
My only concern with changing it from a district office is if somebody moves to the area and is trying to find us, it might be harder for them to know what we're talking about when we say, so could you do like district office and education center? Or
Yeah, and I don't know what like on Google Maps people put, but I know that there are many other districts. Like I've driven by Granite School District. It doesn't say Granite School District District Office. It says Granite Education Center. I believe a lot of them are that way, but yeah. Okay, any other questions on this one?
Will there be time to discuss that? I mean, there'll be a
Yes,
discussion and.
we'll have time.
Yep, okay.
Yeah. So possible solutions that have been considered and studied, distributed employees that would be at a district level, not assigned to a school, to a variety of schools where there is space, lease space in an already existing office space, retrofit a property we already own. Right now, the only empty that, I mean, Sharon has been, but now that's going to be Silver Peak and T-Tech, but Valley View is the only other empty elementary school or school in general, or building new. Superintendent, did you want to cover these next couple?
Yeah, and I would just say on these, we did not consider 1 and 2 very, like, we didn't give a lot of attention to those because we didn't consider them viable options. So we have talked a lot about 3 and 4, so it's important. And so one of the things I want to just talk about a little bit is the advantage of having a district office at one location. And Jason will show a map here in a minute of this, but one central location really does create the best conditions for us to be able to accomplish our district vision and values. In order to collaborate effectively in a teaching and learning team, in order to collaborate effectively with teaching and learning and student services and all of the different moving parts, it's pretty important if we really believe that we're going to be able to, that our goal is to cultivate joyful, thriving students through high levels of genuine learning, those elements have to be in place. And then...
Can you go back one slide?
Yeah.
So you said we didn't really discuss 1 and 2, and I want to address 1. We did discuss 1, and we quickly moved
Yeah.
away from it because that is not the type of district that,
Right.
or learning center, whatever you want to, that's not what we wanted. And there was official as well as, just one-to-one board members discussing, saying, no, nope, we're not
Yeah.
doing that. We're not sending special ed to a separate facility. It sends the wrong message. And it's not just special ed, it's many, many, many.
Right.
So,
And so, yeah, going back to this idea, we value continuous learning and improvement and collaboration and accountability. I think one of the things that's been a little bit difficult, and this is no criticism, because it was just a logistical reality of space as Alpine grew. So no criticism, but it's been difficult to have certain parts completely away from the core work. A good example of that is special ed. I don't think anyone would say it's been ideal to have special ed completely on its own here when, the kind of the center is somewhere else. And also, one of the things I just wanted to mention is it's a lot more efficient for employees and patrons. It wouldn't be great to have some services in Linden and some services at Valley View. So those types of things really do matter. As far as having advantages, that proximity matters for collaboration, teaming. I talked to someone who asked me, well, don't most district people work from home? I said, no district people work from home. It really is super important, that element of working together in the same space, collaborating, and that kind of thing. So, and then the last thing is and we already talked about this a little bit. It's so much more than just housing administrators. It really is a professional learning space, and so many of the people that do the work to support the schools so that they can be robust and thriving, it's a space for them where they work. So,
will you, I can prompt you if necessary. I just want in board meeting with other people here and where more people are likely to watch than here to go over those 4 and address kind of each one a little bit, not for a long time, but just.
Yeah, I think we can bring the slides back up during those.
Yeah,
discussions.
the 2 slides back that said one was using an existing facility and office,
different
renovating
options.
the different options.
Well, and Michelle also,
I can add that to the slideshow.
well, you did an article. I mean, I think we can reference the article that has been published about those options.
Okay, so the thought of using existing buildings. So right now the Sharon site is being retrofit for a special school, and it's even with that, with special schools, $3 to $4 million for that. That same building, if it were for a district facility, would be more than that because you're changing the scope of the building. It's not as much classrooms and other things. You're having to build a boardroom or office space that's just more walls, more construction that would happen there. Other districts retrofitting existing office buildings throughout the state. Public data shows, it's anywhere from $3 to $5 million, even if it's an existing office building, to be able to bring that up. Sometimes, if it was a lease space, you may do that, and then if you don't own it, you don't recover that. With Timpanogos School District, the only available building, like we said, Valley View, it was built in 1966, 60 years old. We're estimating it would be about $5 million or more to be able to have that be a district facility, a learning center, where some of the staff could be, some would still be in the Linden offices that are by the warehouse. And then construction costs after 7 to 10 years might be 50 to 100% more than they are now, just as how construction costs have gone up. Also looking at like the existing warehouse, there could be a lot of space there, but it's also needed for warehouse space, and maybe that wouldn't be an ideal location, probably wouldn't, for putting a a bunch of offices and having to build inside of that. Let's see. So this is just a Google Maps showing. I keep thinking I'm in control here, but each time I push it, you do it. So it's like we're on the same wavelength. Okay, so the red is the current property that is owned by Alpine School District that will become Timpanogos School District in Linton. So this is the warehouse surplus. In the building that's to the north, the northmost part of that main big building was added on. But in that and the one just to the south is where technology, physical facilities, and purchasing are, and where we have temporary offices for a few of us in there. And then back behind is all of the operations for facilities, maintenance, different shops back there. The property goes all the way out in a little sliver out to State Street, so that's in red. The property that's going to be in question on approval for purchasing in tonight's board meeting is the part with that blue, so that car lot that's there, and blue or green? Bluish green. And so that just gives a little overview of the site. It squares up the property. We looked at, and it was shown in those study sessions when Frank Pulley presented, options where a district office could be in that little sliver, but it would take most of that space, and then parking would be a major issue. So the board has directed staff to look at that possibility of that property. It took a lot of effort, but it's now something that's possible to buy under contract but hasn't closed yet, to be able to give a lot better presence of a building and be able to have sufficient parking for the staff that's there and also for the public to come and use and to attend board meetings.
Can I also mention, as we talk about parking, considering the Valley View property, we did use that, Alpine School District used that for training, and the parking situation, having as many people as could be coming to a district office, even though they created parking in the back on Blacktop that was playground before, even with that, the streets were lined with vehicles from people, and so the parking, it's not a good situation there for parking.
Okay.
And even when we had students there and we would do the Halloween parade or whatever, parking was horrible.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm just thinking we need to add that to our capital plan, is a plan for Valley View. You know, what that neighborhood needs answers. It's vacant school is not a great asset to their neighborhood, really.
It's an attractive nuisance.
It's an attractive nuisance.
For some
okay.
teenagers.
Yeah, they need a solution.
Okay, a few slides left, but I'll try and go quickly here. The nice thing, so building fund. So Alpine School District about 4 or 5 years ago started a building fund within the capital fund. When they went through truth and taxation, added first about 2 1/3 increments, then another 4, then another 4. So there's a lot of funds that have been built up in there for the purpose that can only be used for purchasing property or remodels or construction. And so it was set up in there to be able to, and now it's a great asset to be able to use for all 3 districts for startup cost. So these funds can only be used for capital. They cannot be used for teacher pay, for operations of any schools. And so they've also, Alpine has preloaded those amounts for districts to be able to use to utilize what's needed to be able to start new districts. So that third bullet is important. The purchase of the Timpanogos Education Center property that's on the agenda for tonight and the future construction of the facility would be funded through these existing capital resources. So there would be no need for lease revenue bond or incurring any long-term debt to be able to purchase the land, construct a building there. Okay, so possible design of the new education center. The departments planned in that would be over on the left, so teaching and learning curriculum, special education, CTE, research assessment analytics, communications, the Timpanogos Foundation, human resources, student and staff wellness, business services, legal, operations, and administration. And then in the existing building by the warehouse, the support functions there of technology, physical facilities and maintenance, purchasing, which are already there, and then also housing, nutrition services. For Alpine School District, nutrition services hasn't been at the district office, at a different site. This would be in the same kind of area as purchasing. And then also a plan to be able to use some of the second floor space possibly for a larger professional development space. For the new construction, we didn't want to build in more of that and not utilize the space we already have. So it's looking at a space that would have 3 big classrooms that could open up into one big classroom, which Frank has shown before in the March meeting, but yeah.
Could you address transportation? And we've had a number of people suggest that this was a former transportation hub. And anyway, can you address that?
Yeah, so that site was, but the buses were not parked there. They were parked when the bus drivers would take those home. So there is, in that top right corner, some parts where the repairs were done on buses, but that has now been changed and it's no longer have the lifts and other things. It's just for other operations for, all these things have things for repairs of mowers and.
Well, and we toured
yeah.
that. We toured that with facilities, and they explained that to make that back into the mechanics for the bus, it would actually be more expensive to add back what was taken out than it would be to start from scratch. Yeah, and so all of the parking, like that new building, because I responded to a lot of emails regarding this, and that spot right there where Joe has his cursor, where he has his office right now, that was built in
8 years ago.
8 years ago. And so for us, we would need this entire property, and it doesn't make sense to demolish.
And a warehouse to
Yeah,
get other.
demolish all of that to house our buses, because right now it's required that, I mean, not required, but the city code is such that we can't park buses on city streets anymore, and it's not good for our buses. We want them, our ideal is to have them in a place where they can be plugged in and where they can be covered to help them last longer and work better.
We're not being good neighbors. Same thing as Valley View. We're not being good neighbors to have a bunch of buses on the
Yeah.
streets.
Yep. So that's why this isn't an option for transportation, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. So possible design of new education center or district office, whatever we name that. Approximately 35 offices, 55 to 60 cubicles, one boardroom about 2,000 square feet, conference rooms 5 that aren't huge, but 300 to 350 square feet each. Total square footage somewhere in the 21 to 23,000 square feet. And then the building cost about 8.4 to 9.2, depending on a lot of things, but that's at about $400 per square foot. If there's opportunities to get a little below that, we're going to try. But we also, like we've discussed, we don't want it to build it at $200 a square foot and it lasts for 10 years. And there's just certain things that we kind of want to reach that sweet spot where it's constructed to last, but not over.
Is that amount, is it dependent upon which construction company we use? I mean, will we get bids from them? Once we have the full rendering from the architect, then we go out for the bids, and then would they say, okay, we can do it for this much?
Yeah, that's already
how does that
started
work?
with some of the bids because we're wanting to bring those on and then they be involved in the planning too because that'll help on our timing and also on the cost because they can cost engineer things like, oh, if we fix it there rather than here's the plans, they can be able to help us to be able to engineer that down a little bit. So they'll come on soon to be able to help with the full design too. Yeah, but right now is a good time too because there are a lot that are bidding on it because there's just slower times of other things. A few years ago, it was really difficult to get construction crews that wanted to because of so much that was happening up at the airport. And other big projects, but now is a really good time to be able to do that. So yeah, hopefully estimated life of building 55 to 75 years. 100 years would be really great. We just have a few, as we wrap up, just a possible renderings. I really like this one. This would be the main entrance coming from the east. That window up above on the right would be the looking out of the boardroom towards Mount Timpanogos. A 1-story on one side, 2-story on the other. If we go to the next one, kind of see the site plan. So a crosswalk that goes all the way over to the existing building to connect the two. You can see through there. State Street's on the far left. The parking lot, you can see, really helps to be able to have that. There'd be an exit out on State Street, but also 2 entrance exits out on that, what is that, 500 North? And yeah, so that last view we had was that kind of main entry where the buildings kind of come together. So right there. Yep, here's the latest floor plan. It's changing all the time. The boardroom would be in that top left of the second floor. That's just showing tables that it could fit 12 round tables there. Of course, during board meeting, it would just be chairs set up. The board would sit over on that far left side, getting to take advantage of that view looking out. And then there'd be the 2 stories there on that bottom part with stairs between, and then a 1-story that's underneath the boardroom there. No basement. So this is, go ahead.
Did you say that there is rooms that you can put together for training? Oh, at the tech center. Okay.
Yeah, the boardroom can be used for a professional development space, but then we'd have some at the other location. Just walking across the parking lot. Okay, I think there's just a few more renderings. These are just kind of preliminary, but this is the view from the State Street side. There wouldn't be an entrance in between that one. There might be an emergency exit, but not right through there. Everything would be funneled through the other side. We can go to the next one. This is looking kind of that first one, just a little different look at that. And I think that might be the last one. Oh no, this one just kind of showing a top view of it. So that's the existing 500 North coming off of State Street and the parking lots there.
I haven't even had a chance to talk to Jason.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to, I'm an English teacher, so I have to cite my sources. Cindy, would you be willing to share with them what you shared with me today? Because I shared it with some in there thinking that is a great idea. Or do you want me to just say it?
He was just talking about some of these options, and I just said, if you did a building here on State Street, I said, please can we have a big screen, find someone to donate a big screen or electronic so that we can just put up 439 fifth graders participated in Battle of the Books. You know, 300 students are getting English, advanced English university credit in high schoolers. You know, like just little quantifiable data points that some family's gonna drive by and say, my kid loves English, I wanna go there. Or someone else is about, my 5th grader loves reading, I wanna go to Timpanogos schools. Or, you know, any positive messaging. I told Superintendent Jansen for 10 years, I have wished that Alpine School District would get 3 big billboards on I-15 and just talk to people as they're driving by. And this is just the perfect place to talk to our family and community members about so many wonderful things, enticing bits that just say to people, I want to be part of this group.
We can share as much or as little of this as you want during board meeting, but yeah, and discuss it more on those things.
Great. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, the time is 5:36. We are going to adjourn our study session, and We will reconvene at 6 o'clock for our board meeting. Everyone to our Timpanogos School District board meeting on July 29th. We are starting at 6:03. We have almost all the board members in attendance. They're in the building, but not at the table yet. But we also have Vice President Sterling Hilton is joining us via technology. He is on vacation, but he will be the voice in the sky at this meeting. So we are going to start with our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Peter Glon.
Please stand and follow my lead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, next we have our inspirational thought will be given by Todd Dawson.
Does this go higher or should I just hold that? Pick up the whole thing? Okay. All right, thank you. So over the years in my past roles, I made some notes so I don't talk forever. The rule is you don't give Todd a mic in a meeting. So over the years in my past roles in administration, I've had the opportunity to interview a lot of candidates for a variety of positions, and I always wanted to find a perfect interview question that I thought would get at the heart of what I valued or what our school community and our culture valued. And I always wanted to know what people believed about kids and why. I wanted to know how far are you willing to go to help every kid be successful. A couple years ago, I developed a question that I love to ask. It's this: what is your personal approach to improving your practice? This question helped me to understand the candidate's mindset and their approach to getting better at what they do. Back in March, at one of these study sessions, or one of your study sessions, Dr. Jensen introduced members of our Vision for Learning team to you, and he said, they are people who will continue to improve themselves and who will improve others. And that's what we show up to work to do, and that's what we believe in doing. That's what I want to do, is to get better and to help those around me get better. Educational leaders and researchers and authors Rick Dufour and Bob Marzano have written that school improvement means people improvement. We've even heard Dr. J make that statement, and I love that concept and I believe it. School campuses are the school, the grounds, the rooms, the buildings, but the people are what make the school. A school's culture is defined by the collective beliefs, attitudes, and actions of the adults in the building, how they approach their work, how they show up each day. NFL football coach Mike Tomlin has been known to say, it's not what you're capable of, but what you're willing to do. I love that idea. It's not what you're capable of, it's what you're willing to do. I see this as willing to try, willing to learn, willing to ask, to act, willing to fail, willing to work, willing to pause, willing to grow, willing to change, willing to do. Certainly there are other areas of willingness that matter, but willingness is paramount to a growth mindset. I once heard education leader Mike Mattis say that he wanted for his own children, upon their graduation from high school, to have endless possibilities. I love that. He had asked the room, what do you want for your own child when they graduate from high school? And we all talked about it. And then he said, I'll tell you mine. 2 words: endless possibilities. Students in Timpanogos School District should be set on a path to endless possibilities when they graduate from our schools. I'm excited to be part of that work and to have that focus as I come to work each day. Years ago, I adopted the mindset, earn your job every day. It's a privilege and blessing to work on behalf of children and families of our school district. We must, you must, as elected officials, never take for granted this opportunity before us. In the book Positive School Leadership, authors Lewis and Murphy stated, the role of leadership is to create positive environments in which human beings can thrive. I'm proud to stand alongside each of you and each of our employees as we embark on this unique endeavor to foster genuine learning through a healthy culture founded on guiding principles and a clearly defined purpose. We're blessed to work together, and I thank you for your efforts thus far.
Thank you so much, Todd. Okay, next on our agenda is our community comments. There was a sign-up sheet available until the meeting started, and we have one person that has signed up to comment. I'm going to make this statement that I do every time. Patrons who wish to address the board are asked to sign up prior to the meeting. This opportunity will be reserved for patrons living within the Timpanogos School District boundary. Individuals living outside of TSD can submit written comments to the Board of Education. There is time on the agenda to allow for up to 3 minutes for public comment for 10 patrons. And yes, speakers should introduce themselves by stating their name. The board does not engage in a discussion during the public comments, but may arrange a follow-up time for additional conversation. And also, I might add, a lot of times we mention comments that were made in our board comments at the end of the meeting. Personnel issues are not appropriate discussion items for an open meeting environment. If you have a personnel concern, we ask that you put your concerns in writing and address it to the Board of Education. The Timpanogos School District is a legislative body, and as such, it functions under the same operational rule as other similar bodies, such as the state legislature. Public input during its formal meetings is to assist the board in ascertaining public attitudes and interests. It is not a forum for open discussions or debate between the board and patrons. We have Stephen Doan who has signed up. Stephen, if you can come to the mic, that would be great. Thank you.
I'm glad you knew how to pronounce my name, because a lot of people don't. I really want to say at the beginning, thank you for your time for serving on the board. You already know what I'm here to talk about, the bus depot that is proposed for my neighborhood. A bus depot doesn't belong in any residential neighborhood, not just mine. It doesn't belong in any. The proposed Anderson Farms location is a residential neighborhood, and by building if the board were to build a bus depot there, it would create a serious breach of public trust. Zoning laws exist to protect residents and owners of land from a serious change in the character of their neighborhood. And the city recently rezoned this land as public facilities. Public facilities allows for other government facilities. When the city was rezoning the land, I don't think they expected to have to protect the land from an essentially industrial use of a bus depot. Furthermore, the land has been intended ever since it was sold to the school district as a school. So residents have been purchasing land with that assumption. If you were to build a bus depot here, you'd reduce the livability of the area, and thereby home values. I did some research. I'm an economist by education, not by trade, but economic studies show that home values drop a full 1% for every 1 decibel increase in noise. And so just looking with limited research, I could do that at minimum, probably a 10 to 20% decrease in home values for the immediate neighbors of the land. And that does not include the effects of exhaust, light pollution, or traffic. And I ask, is it fair to adversely impact residents of a small area for a modest reduction in amortized cost to the district as a whole? Putting a depot in any neighborhood, in my opinion, is a short-sighted solution to a long-term problem. So please, as a board, I beg you to decide that a bus depot doesn't belong in any neighborhood. I want to say too, you're in an environment, I really appreciate your service. You're in an environment where other public servants, not you, but other public servants have breached trust. And so it can be difficult for residents to trust. So please be patient with us as we're patient with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Appreciate that. And I will make one comment on this. There is no proposal. There has nothing been proposed to the board about a transportation facility. It's still in the study phase of it. So there's a lot of things changing and a lot of things happening every day. Things change. So I'll just leave it at that. No proposals, I promise. Okay, let's move on with our agenda. We have approval of the minutes. If the minutes were sent out in our board documents to the board, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as they were sent.
I motion that we approve the minutes as they're sent out and as we've gotten.
A second, please.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion about our minutes?
Did we really make 30 motions to open up proposals?
29.
Oh, okay, that was right. That's okay.
We did that. We did
I
that
do
last
think-
time.
I do think this is the longest minutes I've read.
Great. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving minutes, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Seeing none, that is approved. I will now turn the time over to Dr. Jensen for our discussion and action items.
All right, the first item on the agenda is the official adoption of the district vision and values statement. This was something that was discussed last time, and this is something that our board, that you have all been working on for really since you were elected. We're about 8 months into this process, and this process was extensive. We took it out to every school except Mountain View. Long story why, we will take it to Mountain View in the fall, but because it is a living document. And one of the things I've appreciated in this process is just how you've been true to those values of being transparent, as well as truly seeking the perspectives of the community in the development of this vision and values. It was discussed last time, and then actually there was a motion, but then there was a motion to postpone so that we could clean it up, because it was we had made some changes in study session, and so this is just back on for an official vote and discussion.
Okay, so we talked about this in our study session today, if you all will remember. It was a long time ago that it started at 3:30, but we did discuss this, and so did we add the motto or no? Were we able to add that?
I didn't get it added.
Okay, that's fine. Because it's a living document, so we're going to add a motto of we learn to thrive will be in that yellow spot. We learn to thrive. So I will accept motions. We've got Sterling in the sky. Sterling, I am entertaining motions to approve our vision and value statement as presented in our study session today.
I move that we approve the vision and value statements as written.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Great.
Can we add the motto with the addition of?
With the addition of the motto, we learn to thrive.
Yes.
So moved and seconded with that. Okay, and I open it to discussion.
Dr. Jensen, can you explain the motto, the two edged of that, the two meanings of that?
Yeah, so we learn to thrive, obviously, that we learn so that we can thrive, and also we learn how to thrive. I think those are the two meanings in the statement, and both are significantly relevant for all of us, especially our kids.
I think that really fits in with the no do be. It hits a lot of those aspects in those three categories.
I just want to say how happy I am that we have our vision and values all solidified so that we have some, because that's one of our main jobs when we took this job as school board members, is to have a vision and values, or not, especially the vision for, and I think other than Sterling, I think I've wanted this more than anyone here.
Can I
I
just
think
say?
you maybe.
Go ahead, Sterling.
No, I was just echoing Grace. I'm really excited that we have an approved document, or soon we'll have an approved document.
And I think there is, it's so wonderful to have the value statements, because we have already encountered times when we've had to, in making decisions, we've had to reflect on, well, what are our values? This is what we value: accountability, transparency, integrity. They give us a basis for how we are acting, and for how we should act.
I think also, as we've discussed this, we've all been very transparent with each other and spoken our minds, and we've also been very kind to each other.
I think we've been empathetic. I'm not sure if we've been.
You weren't here
Thank
for
you,
the
Sterling.
behind the conversation. Okay, any other comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of approving our vision and values, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Seeing none, that passes fully, unanimously.
I would love to just comment as well briefly on that. As a superintendent, I would not want to work in a district that didn't have a compelling vision and values. I think every decision, every interaction, everything we do when it comes back to that vision and values, we make better decisions. We'll be able to make better schools so that it's best for our kids. So thank you for making that a priority. All right, the second item on the discussion tonight is the location selection of the Timpanogos Education Center. And just by way of information, back in January, Frank Pulley gave us some possible options. In March, in the study session, they looked at some of the board looked at some of those options again. And then you'll remember in late May, we passed Resolution 2026-008, authorizing the solicitation of bids, design, engineering, and construction of a new district office facility. And then tonight, there's two items related to that. And so I'm looking forward to the dialogue. We already had a significant dialogue in study session that we've talked a lot about that. But I would say that I have appreciated just the way that the board has looked at multiple options on this and weighed the different costs and opportunities. And I appreciate the process you've gone through to get to the point we are in tonight. So.
Okay, we're voting on this, right? We're voting on this, right? Yeah, okay. So I will entertain a motion for the location selection of our Timpanogos Education Center, AKA District Office, to be there on where it says on the thing. Do I need to? Do I have?
It's 490.
Well, I'll open it for discussion. To be located on our current property, where, yeah, at 490 North State Street. Can I get a motion?
I move that we locate our Timpanogos District Education Center, also known as a district office, at 490 North Linden State Street.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, now I open it for discussion. So Jason wants to answer any of your questions, or?
Yeah, I think, Jason, if you could pull up your points, that would be very informative.
Can you see
Dr. Jensen, you can. So we just wanted to show that we did look at several options. So I'll leave that to Jason.
Which slide is it?
Keep going. That one,
Backwards?
right there.
Okay.
Is that the one? Okay. So if you go back one more, it's the dates that Dr. Jensen was talking about, the timeline where this has been discussed in board meetings, study session, and also in the regular board meeting. So January, March, May, and then in the study session earlier today. And the next slide, this is the possible solutions we considered. So there was some thought of, do we distribute employees throughout the district to a variety of schools where there's space available? Do we lease space in an already existing office location? Retrofit a property we already own? There's one empty building right now at Valley View, or building new. Some really good discussion in the study session. Any board members want to reiterate what they shared there?
Jason, I think if you went to the slide where you actually went to specifics, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, what I always found interesting, because I have had discussions with constituents
going.
about this with that one, yeah, is people think that we could just go in and take over a school and just use it as it is right now, but the needs to retrofit that building cost a lot. They cost a lot of money. We're doing that for our Sharon, at the Sharon site for our Silver Peak and T-Tech. But that was an imminent need, and we knew that long term there would be options for building something that we didn't have the funds to do at the time. So this was the best way for us to address that need. But that is going to cost $3 to $4 million, and that is taking it from a school to a school. To take something from a school to an office building is changing the very nature of the building, and it's going to cost. They say $5 million, but I think could even be more, especially with adding the technology that we need to go ahead and stream our meetings and all of the technology that we need to effectively serve our population would be a lot of money, almost half of what it would cost to build new. And that to me made no sense, to be able to spend that sunk cost. That's not money that we can recover. We're not going to get that money back to do something that is going to be a very short-term solution. And that's one thing that I've really considered in all of our things is we need to look down the road 20, 30 years. We don't want to be doing things that are just a Band-Aid.
Yeah, I would add to it. You kind of mentioned it, but we're starting a new district, and we're not just trying to put a Band-Aid on something until we reunite with Alpine or something. We're not doing that. We are starting a new district. Let's have a district office that works and functions like a education center. So.
And I would just add, cost aside, which the cost is significant. It would be a bummer to sink upwards of half or more of the cost of a new into an old building that you would never recover. But for me, cost aside, there's some other elements that are even more important, and those are that having people in a central location, having it all in one campus makes a significant difference. There's no district employee that works from home, right? We depend on being able to be with those teams and being able to collaborate effectively. One of the things that I think is often misunderstood is that a district office is viewed sometimes as it's where administrators work. There's actually fewer administrators in a district office than non-administrators. There's employees that work in curriculum and technology and nutrition and all of those types of work that are creating the conditions for students and teachers and principals in the class or at the school level. And so that ability to work effectively, I think, gets to our vision and values. And I think that's a crucial element of what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah. Another end of that same idea is I've spent a bunch of my career in education working with special ed teachers, special ed department. There's always, including my daughters, two of them which are special ed teachers, and there's always a feeling of they're separate, they're separate, they're separate. And Alpine, because of their size, had to make a decision to farm out special ed down to here to Linden. But that already took a department that already felt like removed a bit from the central office or from the central work, even though it's not. They feel that way. And now all of a sudden they're 5 miles, 10, 15, 20 minutes away, and it creates even more of that. In my district, in the district that I'd like to create, I don't want that. I want them to feel like, hey, we're part of the team, because guess what? They are. And having a central education center allows for that for all the departments, not just special ed, all the departments.
I'd like to mention that Alpine School District has built up a building fund over the last 7 to 10 years, and they have advanced some money for startup costs. So the advanced money is going to cover the cost of this purchase of land that's not being discussed right now, but the building of the new Timpanogos Education Center. So we do not anticipate having to take a lease revenue bond or significant debt to build this center. Any debt.
Yeah, those are all things I was going to share. Well done. That was awesome.
You taught us well in our study session. We
So
were
I think,
listening, Jason.
Yeah, the retrofit, yeah, like you said, it's going to be 5 to 6 million if it did that. If we go to, I think, a couple slides forward, that's the building fund where the capital that Board Member Sorensen just talked about. Here's the possible departments. So there is the campus. We'll show we can show some design things there, but there is a building that's not huge, but right now has Alpine's technology, physical facilities, and purchasing. That would remain and become Timpanogos School District property and be able to utilize that. So we would use that for some professional development space, and then also for those departments that are on the right. The ones on the left would all be in this new proposed building where, like was mentioned, in Alpine School District, because of the size, a lot of those, CTE is not at the district office, the main location, special ed is not, teaching and learning is in a trailer across the parking lot, other things that aren't right there in the same building. So this gives that opportunity to all be there. And the cost there, as we'll show, for the land that kind of helps with parking and building that building like the board wants to, with a nice presence right on State Street, is about 1.5 million, and then the building be between 8.5 to 9.5 million.
Can we go back to the map? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because one of the questions we've had regarding our transportation facility is, why can't we just, like, this used to be the bus depot, why can't we just turn that back into the bus depot? And that, if you can highlight the tech and the warehouse and the tech, that was built, just at least that little white part at the top, that was built, it's a very nice facility, holds probably 30 offices and some space. That was built 9 years ago, and all of this would pretty much, if we didn't purchase this land, all of that would have to be demolished to make room for the buses that we need. Also, that building that's to the right, yeah, that used to be a bus service bays, the bays for them, but they have all of the innards of that have been removed, and so to retrofit that would be more expensive than actually building from scratch, because working within an existing building is harder than just building from the ground up. So, and there's not enough space for the buses as it currently is. I think we get 60 or so buses, and we're going to need 80. So there's room there.
And when this was used as a bus depot, the buses did not park here.
Right.
They parked in neighborhoods.
Some of them did. I mean, there was parking for some that were being serviced, or if the bus drivers didn't have capacity to be able to park somewhere, but a lot of buses were parked on city streets, which isn't safe for either the buses, like that's a attractive nuisance, and they're not covered and they're not able to plug in to be able to start on those cold mornings. So I know that's a concern of some individuals here, so I wanted to point that out.
I just wanted to comment that for those that thought, oh, you just should use one of your existing buildings, as was pointed out, we only had one existing building available, which was Valley View, the Valley View Elementary site, which is in the middle of a neighborhood. It's not ideally located. The property itself has 2 levels. That's hard to work with. So to go with any other site, we would have to, we're in the middle of a boundary study and we haven't completed it. And so we can't really identify buildings that are going to be empty until we complete that boundary study. So that wasn't really an option for me to consider seriously.
Especially since we have employees that will be starting full-time and need a home July 1 of 2027. Sterling, do you have any comments?
No, I think everyone's covered all the information.
Do you want more slides, Jason? Do you want to show
Are you
me
done, Jason,
It's up to you.
with our discussion?
renderings?
Yeah.
There are 2 parts to this. We do have to vote on location, which is kind of what we discussed. And we've kind of bled into the second part already, but.
Yeah, so we have a motion on the table for locating our Timpanogos Education Center district office. That is not decided as far as what we're going to call it yet. That will be a later discussion. But we have a motion on the table for approving the location of our Timpanogos Education Center at 490 North State in Linden. And a second. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Did you say aye, Sterling?
I did.
Okay. Any opposed, say nay. Seeing as none, that motion passes. We'll move on to the resolution.
Okay, with that passed, we'll go on to resolution number 2026-013, which is the authorization of purchase of real property in Linden. And that is the small section on that map adjacent to our current property. And Jason, is there anything you would want to add to that?
The process of this has been really interesting and was challenging for a little bit. The board really wanted us to pursue that, to be able to, like I said before, a nice look for the community, something that can be able to be attractive as people drive by. Look, that's our school district, main facility. And so we worked really hard. We want to thank our realtor that was helping with that. But we have that under contract. It has not closed yet. That's why we have this on the agenda tonight. The scheduled closing date for that will be August 11th. Everything's moving forward with that, pending the vote for the board tonight. So it's about 1.3 acres, 1.35 acres, and purchase price for that about $1.5 million.
Okay, we haven't had a motion, so I will entertain a motion for passing resolution 2026-013 to authorize the purchase of real property in Linden, the 1.35 acres as shown here.
I'd like to make that motion.
Motion from Board Member Fugel,
I second it.
second from Board Member Smith. I will now open it up for discussion or questions that you might have for staff.
I just appreciate Jason's work on this. It's something that we started talking about back when Frank was presenting. We're like, how is this going to work? And appreciate your reaching out to our realtor that we work with that kind of did a lot of the work, and probably work with him again through the years. But I really appreciate that work that's been done.
Jason, I'd like to thank the property owner that was willing to sell the property to us. I know it was a lot of hard work and to get there, and but it really squares up our property and makes it workable.
Yes, he has been, our realtor worked a lot with him, but we've met him a few times and he's been fantastic to work with. We've also met with the people that lease that property right now that have the car dealership, and they've been great to work with. And so it's been a fun process there.
Any other discussion or questions? Sterling? Oh, Grace is going.
No, I would just echo that I'm excited about this finally happening. I think this is a good long-term decision for our district.
I just want to say I'm really happy that it will have a better facing to State Street rather than just the side of the building had we not purchased this property. And much more parking, because nobody wants everybody parking on State Street.
Yeah, that is not.
Yeah, I have to just say, I don't know how many times I drove past the entrance before before I knew I had passed it. So I really think, well, early on, I had my eye on this property. I was very pleased, Jason, that you were able to make it happen. I think it will be a presence in our community and be meaningful to our employees and our children.
And in addition to that, just so easy to get to for all of Orem, all of Linden, all of Pleasant Grove, and most of Vineyard.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, seeing as none, all in favor of approving Resolution 2026-013, authorization of purchase of real property in Linden, Utah. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Sterling?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that has passed unanimously. Yay. Okay. We will now move on to superintendent and board member reports, information items, and comments. I will start with Superintendent Jensen.
All right, I talked last time a little bit about just what an interesting and amazing experience it's been to staff this new district, and how it's been very gratifying to be able to get people settled, because for our employees that have not known now for 2 years where they're going to be in July of 27, it's very unsettling. And I'm happy to report that we're getting very close to the end of that process. We're not very far away from it. And we just wanted to highlight a handful of folks that have been hired in the last few weeks that are going to be a really critical part of our team. And some of them are here tonight. We appreciate you being here. But we have hired Misty Rocha as our Director of Professional Learning and Coaching. That's going to be a key element to our teaching and learning team, improving our teaching and learning across the district. Donnie Baum is our Director of Research Assessment and Analytics. And Donnie is coming from BYU and is going to add an incredible perspective to finding evidence of effectiveness as we pursue our vision for learning. Kim Richards is currently the Director of Purchasing in Alpine School District, and she's coming over with us to Timpanogos. Amber Gardner, her Assistant Director of Purchasing, is also going to join our purchasing team. And then we've started the process of filling out the business services team, which runs all the budgeting, finance, payroll, all of those types of things. Crystal Michaelis is going to be our Director of Finance. She's been in Alpine School District's business services. Jody Dougal has also, and Allison Sabin have all been there in Alpine's business services. But Jody Dougal will be our Assistant Director of Finance, and Allison Sabin, our Director of Payroll. I just want to thank all of our folks, regardless of where they've ended up, with the patience through this process. I've talked to a lot of them as they've come and interviewed and just said, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. It's really strange to come and interview for a job you already are working in with people you're working with, and it's just really awkward, and you feel unsettled about it all. And so it's really good to get to the point where we're a few weeks away of really being pretty much fully staffed come July of 2027. And I'm grateful for that, but I'm also grateful for these great team members. I sleep a little better at night every time we add someone. So those are my comments for tonight.
Thank you, and welcome to those new members of our team. We're so excited. Okay, we're gonna start in here, right? We're gonna start with Ada and work our way down. I'm gonna pass. Okay, Grace.
I just want to thank Todd Dawson for giving us such a great inspirational thought. And I just always want to be willing to earn my job every day. So thanks for that. And I will keep working on that. And I'm really excited for this district and the things we're doing. It's going to be great.
I was kind of planning out the next couple of weeks, and as I looked at the calendar, I realized that next week is Alpine School District's Administrative Conference. I retired from Alpine 3 years ago, 3 years ago, and have attended many of those. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's upon us again. I think it's on the 5th, if I'm not mistaken, that we're being asked to go. And then I looked the following week, and Michelle, I got your email about the PTSA and the kickoff, and I've been to many of those at Sky Ridge through the years, and thought, oh man, here it is. And then I was planning some other things, and was starting to think, oh, when's the open house for my son's school? It's a brand new school opening up. It's T-Tech is where my son goes. I was like, okay, when's the open house, back to school night for him? And then a couple of days later is the first day of school, and it's all Alpine. It's not us doing that. But I was like, oh, that's a lot of work a lot of people are doing, including people who are working for us 1 day a week or whatever, but they're at Alpine. And then I started looking and thinking, well, we also have a secondary configuration meeting, and elementary ones, and more and more and more. And it's like, we have a lot of work we're doing too, but it is upon us. The school year is upon us, and it's time to start scheduling the different meetings that we'll have with our schools. And it's just a lot of excitement, a lot of work, and it's here.
Sterling, would you like to take a moment?
Yes, thanks. I just want to go on record as saying again how pleased I am that we have an accepted and adopted vision and values. I agree with the comments that Joe made earlier, and that others made as well, that they really are important and they will help guide our actions and our decisions moving forward. So I appreciate all the effort from the board members and others and the community in helping us create this vision and value statements.
Great, thank you. Kai?
Yeah, I have one item, I call it a calendaring item here, October the 10th, which is a ways off. And it's a Saturday evening, and it's the UVU President's Scholarship Ball. And how many of you have attended that before? Okay, Ada. Well, I would like to, Paul and I'd like to host all of you at that ball that evening. And so if you'd kind of mark your calendars, I'll check with you in the 1st of September and see if you can make it. And if not, we'll open it up to some other people. This is kind of a tradition Paul and I've had for many years, and Pleasant Grove City's been the recipient for the last 8 years. So now it's your turn, and I think it's good to be seen over there, and it's a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Michelle?
that some people would be interested to know some of the initial findings from our survey that we sent out on grade configuration. And so I have a couple slides on that. The first question was, are you in favor of moving ninth grade to high school? And over 4,000 people responded to that question. And 63% are in favor of that move, with 26% against. So that was the result of that question. The second item that we were studying in that survey was sixth grade to junior high if we do move ninth grade to high school. And it was interesting to see that the respondents dropped off in that. There were only just over 2,900 respondents to this question, but 52% were in favor of moving sixth grade to junior high if we do move ninth grade to high school. So interesting results there. And then there were some key takeaways that I'll let everybody just skim over. One of the key takeaways that I feel the same about is to ensure the social emotional well-being of the younger students transitioning in with older peers. I'm sure there's a lot of thinking of that move. There could be some anxiety for parents and students as well, that this is new and different, but also, you know, these children are younger. So being sure to take care of these children, and also it was made in study session to take care of the teachers too, who would have to make these transitions. So that is one thing that I appreciate from the takeaways and would want to plan and take care of.
Jen, I just would be
Do you want to reclaim your time?
I want to reclaim
Go
some
right ahead, Ada.
Sorry. We would be remiss if we didn't say thank you to all of our parents and patrons who participated in our focus groups concerning our elementary boundary studies. This is the real hard part, because we have programs in our elementary schools that are very important to our families and our students, especially our gifted and talented and our dual language immersion. So thank you to all those parents who participated with us in helping us to understand what's important to you and what shouldn't be important to us as we make decisions in the next month. It's upon us. So we'll be working hard to get good options to the community.
Thank you. I had the opportunity last week to attend a visit at Tabitha's Way in Pleasant Grove. They offer, it's a food pantry, and they offer other services to families that are struggling, especially those who maybe don't feel comfortable going to their congregations for help. They serve a lot of people. It was amazing to me how big the need is there, and they have a real desire to continue their community outreach. They're looking for ambassadors to serve in the different in the cities that they serve, and that's kind of the north. I think Orem is served by community action, but so it would be Vineyard and Linden and Pleasant Grove. If you're at all interested in being an ambassador to help bridge the resources with those who need the resources, please reach out to me. I'm looking for people that would be willing to help. And they're also focused on, I was really excited, in a past life, I was a financial counselor at a business helping people with their finances. And they are creating a curriculum around helping people with self-reliance. And so I'm excited about being able to help with that process to really help people get back on their feet. That was really interesting and really informative. I'm excited for the opportunities we have to make. We talked in study session about parenting classes, and we do have some wonderful organizations in our communities that are providing services to our students and our parents, and I'm grateful for future partnerships. I was reached out by someone, One Kind Act a Day, that wants to have some partner with us as well in providing some help there. So I'm excited about that, and the opportunities we have, not just for the basics of education, which is our core, but also being able to be a true community partner with these other entities that are trying to make our communities better. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm grateful for it. It has been an overwhelming couple of weeks, I will not lie, with I've been getting a lot of emails, and it'd be easy for me to get overwhelmed, but I love it. I love the opportunity I have to interact with our constituents, and I hope that they feel that respect back as I respond, that I'm grateful for advocacy. I'm grateful that there are people that care so much. And it really is heartening to me to know that together we are going to work to make this district the best. And I commit to you to continue to listen and to be able to help in our decision-making process. This is part of this survey. It's not, it was interesting, and I had a conversation with a friend this week, and she said, oh yeah, I got the survey and I voted. I hope what I voted for wins. And I was like, well, I had to explain to her, this isn't a vote. We're not voting and the biggest person, the most votes wins. It's an opportunity for us to get feedback and really gauge the public's input. And we need that. So don't ever stop. Don't ever, I hope I never put that out. Just stop contacting. We need that. It's vital in our work, but it is one point that we are going to take information. It's a very large and looming point that we are going to consider in our decision making. I promise you that. But we have a lot of information that we have to consider. So I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for each of you that are here. I want more people to come to all of our meetings. I want to have a full roster of public comments. When I first started this job, that scared me to death. I thought, oh my gosh, I have to sit up here and have people just come and yell at me. But I thoroughly enjoy it. I really enjoy hearing from each of the people that have shared, and I think it helps us be better and do better at our jobs. So thank you. We have no need to go into closed session today, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting, seeing as how we've done everything.
I motion that we adjourn our meeting.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. We stand adjourned. Sterling, have fun. We'll see you when you get back.
All right, thank you.